Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to welcome you to this exclusive webinar co-hosted with our partner Velixo. So today's session is all about unlocking new levels of productivity within Acumatica, and Velixo is the perfect solution to help you just do that. Velixo is an award-winning reporting, budgeting, and automation tool that brings the full power of Excel into your Acumatica environment in real time. So whether you're looking to streamline financial reporting, simplify budgeting, or even automate your internal workflows, Velixo delivers a user-friendly, powerful solution trusted by thousands of happy users. And it's no surprise, it's the #1 in the Acumatica Marketplace. So with that, I'll hand it over to the Velixo team, Tala, to show you exactly how this tool can transform the way you work.
Thank you, Yusra, for this very nice presentation.
Sure.
I'm just going to start with my screen. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Tala, and I will be your host for the next little while, presenting Velixo. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat if you have any. We will have a short Q&A session at the end. And of course, if there is anything that we cannot respond to you directly, we'll make sure to respond to you by email. The goal of the presentation today, and what I hope you're going to leave with, is how to get the most out of Acumatica from the comfort of Excel. You will see how to bring all your data, financials, projects onto one sheet, how you can slice and dice your reports, and then we will also explore how you can push back your data into Acumatica. This will be an overview to give you a taste on how Velixo works, but if you are interested in digging deeper for your specific reporting needs, we're more than happy to schedule a call at a later time for something a little bit more personalized. So a little bit about us first. We were founded not so long ago in 2017 by Gabriel Michaud. He actually worked in Acumatica as a leader, and he saw the opportunity to build Velixo as an Excel add-in because for years and years he just kept noticing that people would go back to Excel for reporting, budgeting, and analysis. And a lot of those conversations really highlighted that need for flexibility when it comes to reporting. Fast forward a couple of years, we won a few awards. In 2022, we got Partner of the Year. And again in 2024, just a few months ago, we also got Innovation Partner in 2023. And we have a really solid team and achieved some incredible satisfaction scores. You can read all about it on G2 if you're interested. So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? So when it comes to manual spreadsheets, there are a few problems that tend to arise. Mainly the process requires you to export your data into Excel and then manually enter any changes that you did in the meantime. The thing is, the second that you are done exporting your data to Excel, it is already outdated. Internally, we have a funny saying where we say it's copy and waste, and we find that it's pretty relevant for most people in the industry. So this is where Velixo comes in and helps you with those challenges. First off, we offer you a real-time reporting experience, no data warehouses. It's also bidirectional, so you can pull and push to Acumatica. And when I say push to Acumatica, I mean you can write back to scenarios like budgeting, forecasting, automation of business processes, to GL, project management, any other module that you might be considering at the moment. Another thing is Velixo is an Excel add-in, so you can install it right there from your Excel sheet, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. And you can also benefit from the whole ecosystem that Microsoft 365 offers when it comes to collaboration and automation, for example. One thing I wanted to mention before we move on, and a question you might be asking yourself is, well, what about the learning curve? So Velixo is fully serviced, and the highlight is you don't really need to be a programmer to use Velixo. It's just based on how comfortable you are with Excel. But of course, we have options in case you are looking for additional training, which I will show you at the end of the demo. I'll show you where you can find those training. And of course, you have easy access to some samples and templates to get you started, which we'll explore shortly, and I'll also show you how you can find them on our website. In conclusion, you will be able to save time and money and of course, increase your efficiency. So let's get started with our demo. I will now show you we will do a quick overview on Excel, and then I'll show you our financial sample pack so we can explore further functionalities. Then, of course, we'll go over to some other templates and samples for those that are interested in projects or more of our construction attendees, so you can see the diverse usages of Velixo. All right, so first things first, I'm going to show you how you can download Velixo. It's pretty straightforward. You just need to click on your add-ins button over here in the Home tab on Excel. It's usually all the way to the right or almost all the way to the right. You just click on add-ins, search up Velixo, and then follow the download procedure. It's pretty straightforward. If you do not have the add-ins button in your Home tab, it's probably just in your Files tab. So you just have to scroll and you should have a button here that says Get Add-ins. Whichever method you decided to do, you'll end up with the same result, which is the Velixo and X tab over here and a ribbon with all of the new functionalities that you now have access to. So of course, we have here our refresh button. So in case you need to refresh your sheet with the most accurate data or your workbook, depending on how heavy it is. We have our connection manager. This allows you to connect to one or multiple instances in Acumatica. We'll explore it in just a couple of seconds. Drill down allows you to look at the source transactions behind a cell. This is going to be really nice to explore. And we have our distribution list. This is cool if you're using Outlook and you need to send one or multiple sheets to different people in the organization. Let's say you need to send one report on a weekly or monthly basis. This is a really nice way to automate it, or maybe just save a copy onto your archives. That's another use case. And then, of course, we'll explore some scenarios where we can push data back from Excel onto Acumatica. We also have our tools sections. These are just helpful buttons that you have access to right there. And of course, we have our help section. This one is really nice and I like to show it when I present Velixo, just to show you how easy it is to access support, information, if you need to download any templates, or maybe you've been using Velixo for a little while, you have an idea that you think would be interesting to add. You can add it, you can find everything right there from your Excel sheet. So before we can move forward and actually get started with the demo, I'm going to show you how you can connect your sheet to Acumatica. So by clicking on the connection manager on the left side of the ribbon, you'll have this side panel that's going to pop in. You'll see here I'm already connected to my demo instance, but if I didn't have anything, I'll just click on plus and follow the instructions. So of course here we're going to have our ERP, which is Acumatica, and this is the name that you will use in your formulas. So I always recommend something short and simple that you can remember, and maybe an abbreviation of your company's name or the tenant, whatever you think will stick better. If you have single sign-on, you're more than welcome to use it. If not, you'll have to use the username and password method, and of course put your URL and the tenant, and all of this information that is found here is taken right from your Acumatica login page. So you can just copy the URL you have over there, and of course the same credentials and the tenant. At this stage, I just wanted to open a small parenthesis and mention that since you are using the same username and password, it also ensures that the same levels of authorizations and privacy are being copied. So for example, let's say you're an employee that cannot view payroll information in Acumatica, you also cannot see that data on Excel. It would come like as an error message, so you cannot view it. Another thing I wanted to mention, you will probably be using Remember Credentials, and whether you decide to do it or not, it doesn't change the fact that Velixo does not store any of your data. So if you choose to Remember Credentials, you can rest assured it's just going to be saved in an encrypted area on your computer, but Velixo will not be storing any of your data. We're just going to click on cancel for demo purposes, but you'll see here that we're already connected and you can add multiple connections. So this is really solid if you have different companies, different tenants, you want to consolidate data that's coming from all of those different sources. You can manage it right from over here. So now that we're connected and we're good to go, we can get started with our demo. So I'm going to start by building a simple trial balance sheet. This will give you a taste on how the functions work before we can move on to our financial templates and take a look at more elaborate functions. So the first thing we're going to need is our codes over here, or our codes, our account codes, their names, and we're going to put balance or account ending balance. Since I'm pulling all of the codes I have in Acumatica with no exception, I can just click on Insert Chart of Accounts in my ribbon, select the connection. In my case, it's just one connection, so it's pretty straightforward. Then click on Insert, and there we have it. You'll see that on the cell A10, there's already the function that has been inserted. This is one of the many Velixo functions that you now have access to. And we're going to use another one so we can get the account names. So you can either click on Insert Function over here, scroll down to Velixo and X, and look up account name. This is one method to do it. And then, of course, you'll follow the instructions. So you'll put your connection name, the account code. In that case, it's pretty straightforward. They're not asking something that's complicated of me. But if I wasn't sure what they want, I can just click on Help on this function. And it's going to open an article on our website, which tells you which parameters are required, which ones are optional. It even gives you some examples, so you always ensure that your formula is the most accurate. So going back here, we'll put our connection name, which is demo, and our codes. Oh, click on OK. And there we have it. Now, if while I'm doing this trial balance, I made some changes in Acumatica, I want it to be reflected, I can just simply click on refresh current sheet or current workbook so I can have it updated in real time. Or you can just have the formula run again. And then for a split second, you'll see this green circle that's going to pop in quite frequently. That just means we're in sync with Acumatica and bringing you the most accurate data. For the account ending balance, of course, I'm going to need at least a couple of parameters. So let's define a ledger as actual and a financial period. Let's put 11/20/20. I'm also going to write sub-accounts. For the sake of simplicity, we're not going to be using any sub-accounts, but just so you're aware that you can get more granular than that. For the account ending balance, I'm not going to use the insert function that we just did, so I can show you another method, which is just typing it onto your cell. So we're going to click equal account ending balance. Similarly, we're going to follow the arguments. In that case, if I needed help, I can just click on the formula itself. And very similarly, we have another article. This one you see it's a bit more elaborate, giving you more examples and more details on the parameters. So let's follow the instructions or the arguments. We're going to need our connection name, our ledger, which is right over here. I'm going to freeze it so it doesn't move. No account class, but we do have our account codes. Again, no sub-accounts or branches, but we do have a financial period, and hit enter. Now this is really nice to take a look at, but what is really interesting to see is if we ever need to do comparisons. So if I copy what's in column C and put it in column D, so I just simply did a copy and paste, I can actually compare different ledgers, or maybe let's put it back to my actual ledger and just simply compare financial periods. This allows you to also calculate the variance by just simply doing a cell minus cell function. Now, while this is pretty interesting, we do have a lot of account codes that have been listed here in column A. Sometimes this might be it might be more relevant to group certain accounts or to list them. So let's give it a shot over here. We're going to say we want our codes 10,100 all the way to 15,000. Very similarly, we are going to copy what I have selected over here and just paste it on C5. And we'll have our balance for the following ledgers, financial period, so on and so forth. We can also define a list. So maybe we want accounts 10,100 and 15,000. You'll notice over here I actually used a semicolon. And very similarly, we are going to copy and then paste. And one of my favorites is our wildcards. So sometimes we only want we want all of the accounts that start with one, but we're not really defining what comes afterwards. So just literally all the accounts that start with one. You can just put a couple of question marks and then copy and paste. So there we have it. We did a very simple and basic trial balance sheet in just a matter of couple of minutes. So in order to explore the rest of the functions, I'm going to show you our financial pack over here. So what you see over here is it is our financial pack, and you'll see that there are a lot of sheets that have been included. So we have our profit and loss, we have a consolidated version. Of course, we can do some trailings, or maybe you might be thinking more in terms of visuals for dashboards. We have our cash flow statement, our trial balance. This is very similar to the one we just did. It's just a little bit more elaborate. We actually defined some branches, debit and credit, but it's pretty simple. a P&L by week, some write-back scenarios, which we will explore, and of course, a cash flow forecast. Let's just go back to our first P&L so we can explore some of the other functions. If you'll notice here, when I click on the plus button, on column B, there are just some other Velixo functions that have been hidden, but they are embedded onto the sheets and they are working very closely with Excel formulas to give you those reports. So I did want to mention that Velixo does not remove any of your Excel functions. We kind of work hand in hand to make to work together, but it doesn't remove any of the functions. Let's just hide it back for the sake of aesthetics and go towards here. You'll notice here we have a consolidated profit and loss, but I can toggle between branches. So I can take a look at a profit and loss, for example, for services East or for services West. And you notice that every single time I toggle between branches, there's that green circle that I mentioned that is just pulling data from Acumatica and making sure everything is in sync and the most up to date. If you recall in the beginning, I introduced our drill down feature by saying it allows you to look at the source transactions. So we'll explore it now. Let's say you have an audit, internal or external, or maybe just the manager wants to know why my total expenses was this high. You can just select the cell, click on drill down, and in a few seconds, it's going to create a new Excel sheet. And you'll notice we have all of the transactions that amounted to the total. If you notice also in column B, everything is in blue because they are hyperlinks that link to Acumatica. So let's say I want to get more granular than that. I want to know my travel transaction, what happened over here. By just clicking on it, and if you weren't already logged in, it's just going to prompt you to log in. We know that it was one night at the Hilton. We can always dig a little bit deeper and even take a look at the receipt. Let's see if it allows us to do it. And we should be seeing it right over here. So now we have a clearer idea of that travel transaction. We know it was Thomas who went to the Hilton, on what date, how much he paid. So this is just an example to show you how easy it is to communicate between Excel and Acumatica and to go back and forth. So you can use it for any other transaction or any other example where it would be relevant. The button right next to drill down is status. This one just prompts that side panel on the right to pop in. It's not necessary for you to have it open at all times, but it's just going to pop in here and there to tell you if anything, if there are any formulas to review, if anything is happening in the background. But you don't have to have it open. You can just close it if it's just bothering you. Another helpful tool is distribution lists. So if you are using Outlook and you want to send one or multiple sheets to someone, or maybe you want to just save a copy into your desktop, this is going to be really interesting. So you'll notice if I click on my ribbon onto new list, it's going to generate this template. Let's open one that's already been pre-filled for demo purposes. You notice over here we can choose which format we want our report to be in. So you can have it exactly as it is and as an Excel sheet. You can choose to remove the Velixo formulas. This is pretty interesting if you are sending your report to someone that doesn't have Velixo, for example. You can have it attached as a PDF or just as blanks onto your email. Once you've decided your file name, which tab it is on, who you want to send it to, the subject, the email body, and the attachments, you can just send it to those people by choosing the email delivery method. So you can have it open draft, save to drafts, or send immediately. One small parenthesis, even if you choose send immediately, it's not going to continuously send those reports. You would still have to click on distribute all over here in the ribbon to make sure those reports are sent. But just to show you an example, I actually opened some drafts of the emails to show you how it would look like. It would look something like this, essentially like exactly like your Outlook emails. You just have the attachments and what you define, the subject, the body, and of course who you want to send it to. Once the template is prepared, you can run it the way you want. So for example, if you are sending those reports in column B to everyone mentioned in column E on a monthly basis, you don't need to save a copy of the sheet, open Outlook and attach, just as I showed you. You just need to click on distribute all. The reports in those sheets are also actively syncing with Acumatica data, so you don't need to toggle back and forth. There is another method also if you need to save a copy, let's say. This is called snapshot. So by clicking on Snapshot over here in my Tools section in the ribbon, I can choose to either take a snapshot of my entire workbook or the current sheet. What I mean by snapshot is just save a copy. And then you can choose to remove the Velixo formulas or all of the formulas. This is pretty useful if you do need to send it to someone, let's say, in a different method without using distribution lists. And then once you're ready, you take a snapshot or save a copy and then do what you want with it. One thing I wanted to also mention is that if you recall, I said that it's not only to send emails, but also if you need to save a copy. So we have a really helpful tool here in our folder path. By clicking on Insert Folder Path, you can just select which file works best for you, and then you can just have it typed right onto here. You don't actually have to write down anything. All right, moving forward to our next feature, this is going to be write back. We're going to see now how we can push our data from Excel back to Acumatica. And we have some templates that are ready to go for journal transactions, budget, and project forecast, but you can also leverage any of the existing Acumatica import scenarios. So this allows you to create those multiple records in Acumatica from Excel in just one or a couple of clicks. Let me show you an example of how that looks like. If I click on Project Forecast, for example, you'll see a template that has been generated. And in column K, we have here the formula that has been embedded onto the sheet. Let's take a look at two examples that we have for write back. So in that case, we have our budget write back scenario. And maybe in our case, we work in sales. We see our sales revenue over here on cell C11, and we see the forecast as 10%. That might be a little bit too low. We're actually forecasting 12%. I can just modify it, hit enter, and you'll see that a couple of cells have been modified in just one click that I did. Afterwards, I can choose if I want my changes to be made immediately, so without adding a layer of defense, or if I want to add a layer of defense. In that case, in the first example, we're just going to have the update be automatic. So when I click on Perform Write Back, everything is going to be pushed back to Acumatica. So let's just give it a second because we see the write back is in progress. We see here the lines that have been uploaded. And there we have it. We don't actually need to go on Acumatica and approve anything. But if we wanted to, we can actually take a look at how that would look like. So let's look up our budget release. And you'll see these are the changes that were just made. Moving on to our other example. This one actually was from a client. He allowed us to use this example, but essentially he needed to calculate his GL insurance of revenue times GL rate. You can see here it's only 5 branches. But you can imagine if you had maybe 10, 15 branches, how time consuming that could be and prone to errors. So this is just a way to simplify the whole thing. Let's say our GL rate went from 3 to maybe 4, hit enter. Our GL insurance and therefore the GL entry have been modified. And if you notice very closely on G11 over here, the automatic release is set as no. That means it's not going to do the same as the first example, but again, instead it's going to add a layer of defense and actually open Acumatica and show us the changes. So let's try it over here. Again, click on Perform Write Back, open Acumatica, and we'll see which changes or which updates are set to be made. And then we can choose to remove hold if everything is good to go and we approve all of it. So just going back here to our example, we just take a look at some of the examples, some of the features that Velixo provides. I wanted to also talk to you guys a little bit more about our generic inquiries. So if you're not familiar with generic inquiries in Acumatica, that is a tool that allows you to pull your data from the database and just display it in a more customizable form. Some people use it for reports, dashboards, that sort of thing, or data entry. I'm going to show you how you can actually take that generic inquiry, also called GIs, and put it onto Excel for further, so you can manipulate the data a bit more. So I'm just going to open here an empty sheet. We're going to go back to Acumatica, let's say on our accounts payables. And I'm going to show you how you can modify that data. However, if you only need a copy of this generic inquiry with static data onto Excel, you can just click on our logo over here, the X button that's glowing a little bit, and it's going to download essentially an Excel sheet in a static version. But I'm going to show you the more dynamic way of doing it. So what we're going to need is our inquiry title. So we're going to copy it and paste it on our Excel sheet just so we don't forget what it's called. And if you recall in the beginning when I was writing formulas, I just clicked on equal and then wrote whatever it is that I was looking to do. So I'm going to do the same thing here. In that case, it's equal GI for generic inquiries. Open the parentheses. So I'm going to need my connection name, which is demo, and the name of my GI. So in a few seconds, you'll notice that we have here the whole generic inquiry with all of the details. That might be a little bit too much or too overwhelming. We just want to filter it a tiny bit. So let's say we want only our vendors, their status, and let's put currency. So we can filter it as such, but we can even get more granular than that and actually define a GI filter. This is what I will be defining over here on cell B4 in the highlighted cell. So I'm going to define two parameters. Let's say my vendor is transit, and let's say with an open status. You can, of course, define as many parameters as you want. This is just for the sake of simplicity. And similarly, when we're going to click equal GI filter and follow the instructions. Once our filter is ready, we can just insert it onto the original formula on A6 over here, hit enter, and then we can toggle between the different parameters, for example, between status closed and open. And you'll notice every single time I hit enter, there's a green circle I mentioned that's bringing the data from Acumatica. Now that we had a little bit of an overview on our financial pack, I think it would be interesting just to explore the other templates that you have access to, just some of them. So I'm going to show you over here our project one. So you'll notice over here we have high-level metrics for projects with filters, for example, for status, the project director or manager, and the start date right over here. And below we just have a breakdown of more the cost and the gross profit over time. We have, of course, our portfolio. You'll notice over here, the function that was used is GI for generic inquiries. So we are pulling the data from from Acumatica. Of course, we have invoices. This is for our active projects. You'll see that for the first parts, for the code, the name, and the status, we use the GI function also to bring in that information. And then for the AR aging information by project, we use a different function over here, all of which have GIs and or Excel formulas that have been used together. Of course, we have our project report. So you'll notice here on cell D9, we have our project ID. Then you can compare over billings versus cost. You have here our cost codes. You can do some comparisons with budget and actual. The very famous SWIP for under and over billings. Of course, some cost over time and a little bit of project forecast. Another example I wanted to show you, this is more specific to construction, but essentially, let's say you are in a tile company and you have those projects. So you're working on a kitchen, a hallway, and a bathroom, and you have the area that has been calculated over here in column K. What Velixo can help you with is that we are bringing the price list directly from Acumatica, so it's always the most accurate and the most up to date. I'll show you where you can find it. It's actually in our materials sheet over here. We also used our GIs to pull it. And then we just used it over here onto that job worksheet. You can also use it to send a job estimate to a client and maybe even use our distribution list to send those job estimates to different clients. And then maybe push back data onto Acumatica, whatever you think will work best for you. If you recall at the beginning, I mentioned that all of those templates and more can be found on our website. I'm going to show you exactly how you can find it by clicking on Download Report Templates. You'll see over here we have a library of information. So we have ones for, let's say, trial balance, cash flow forecast, AP aging, so on and so forth. Some of our demo templates, which I just explained to you during today's webinar. And of course, we have our samples. So if you need to take a look, for example, more on how to use Excel as a CPQ tool, this is briefly what I just covered today, but you can take a look at more details over here, or dashboard and comparative financials, really other things that you may need. And all of this is getting updated pretty frequently. So we're always aiming to improve what reports we have, the samples that you have access to on our website. I know some people might be asking themselves if they can just download it and use it for their own reporting. I would say you absolutely can. You just need to ensure that you are properly connected and everything is good to go before you can rely on it. But some people just take it for inspiration, and whichever method you decide, that's completely fine. Another thing I also talked about a little bit more towards the presentation of Velixo is about our training program. So I'm going to open our Acumatica learning platform over here just to give you a taste of how it would look like. So it's not necessary for you to have this training. It comes at an additional cost, but you can have access to it if you ever feel that you need a little bit more support. And it's a series of live classes. This is something that I really like about our training platform. It's in a classroom-like environment, and essentially it comes in 3 sessions. So we have our introduction, the intermediate, and a slightly more advanced version. And as many people as you want can open those, they can join those sessions as many times as you want them to. And you can also skip. You don't have to actually go through the levels. If you think you're pretty solid with Velixo and Excel, you can just go straight to advanced. And the instructor, Harry, is very, very knowledgeable. So you can just go on there, ask any questions that you have, pop them in the chat, or just ask them right away. I'm sure he will be more than happy to assist you with it. All right, as we are nearing a little bit more towards the end, just wanted to wrap things up by saying Velixo is quite versatile. It can be a game-changing tool when it comes to your reporting. And again, that was an overview just to give you a taste on what you can achieve. But if you want a more specified demo, something that is more tailored towards your reporting and what you are looking for, we can definitely arrange something with DNA to ensure everything is correct. And I'm just going to stop over here and see if there are any questions in the chat. From my end, I don't think I see anything in the chat. Just wanted to double check
No
check
question for
again.
the moment.
All right, perfect. That was a lot of information. So
Yeah,
sometimes it just needs a
really.
little bit of time to let everything brew and set in. I'll just give you a couple of seconds to think of any questions. And of course, if there's anything after the webinar, you can just send us an email.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who joined our webinar today. We really appreciate your time and engagement, and we hope you found the session valuable. A big thank you as well to Tyler for the great insight on maximizing Acumatica with the powerful Excel-based reporting. And stay tuned, guys, for more sessions, and feel free to reach out if you have any question or would like a personalized demonstration. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you. Take care.